system.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Gaming the System, the podcast where three intersectional feminists examine gaming and games through a feminist lens. I'm your host for today. I'm Jem, and I'm here with my friends Alex and Matt. So before we get started, if you want to support us, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/gaming the system for some exclusive content. Or you can send us a one-off donation via PayPal to our email address, wearegamingthesystem@gmail.com. Hello, and today we are going to be looking at some of the current news stories in the games industry. And we do this periodically. We try to do it once a month, but it's very erratic and depends on our mood and what's going on. So does anyone have a burning story they would like to kick off with?
I can start if you like.
Go ahead, Alex.
Okay, so my story is quite a few days old by now, but it's news about Nvidia, maker of graphics cards, big and small. They've faced a lot of backlash over their latest breakthrough graphics feature, which utilizes AI to enhance graphical output. And it's called the DLSS 5. And they did sort of a tech showcase.
She name that is, isn't it?
I know.
So it's not difficult to forget.
Rolls off the tongue.
You know what it stands for?
No, what did it stand for?
Deep Learning Super Sampling.
Oh, not sure if I like that. Yeah, that's a really intriguing name. Deep Learning Super Sampling 5. Yeah, not catchy, not catchy. But yeah, they did a tech demo basically and showed different images of different games. So things like the latest Resident Evil Requiem. They also did Hogwarts Legacy and a couple of other different types of games. And there's been a lot of backlash because of the quote-unquote yassification that is happening to the game. So essentially it's making everything look like it's got some kind of AI Instagram filter. That was the general consensus from most of the gaming community. I'll see if I can share a picture with you of the difference on Resident Evil Requiem, because this was what caught most attention. I think was most relevant for our podcast as well. Let me see if I can grab it. Hold on. Apologies to any audio listeners. We'll try and describe it as best we can. Hopefully you can see this picture here. So the one on the left-hand side, the viewer's left, is a picture or a screenshot from Resident Evil Requiem with the DLSS 5 off. And then the one on the right-hand side is with it on. And you can see, is it Ashley, the character?
Grace.
Am I right?
Ashley's from Resident Evil 4.
I'm sorry. Apologies. To
Another young, blonde, skinny woman.
Yes. Do we know the name of this character?
Grace.
Grace. Thank you, Matt. Thank you. Okay, so this is Grace. And what are the key things that you kind of can pick up on based on this image here? I'll try and zoom in a little for you. Anything spring to mind?
I want to be kind to them.
Yeah.
In a way, because I know that we're very quickly going to get unkind. I think that the image on the right with the DLSS 5 on is a much sharper and crisper image, but it sort of takes away some of the grittiness of the scene for me. And certainly I'm actually looking at the background, and the one on the without the DLSS 5, it looks more realistic, actually. Like it looks more sort of blurry and difficult to see what's going on in the background, which is how it would look if it was rainy and misty. And we've lost that. It's sharpened everything up in the right hand side. And yeah, I am ignoring the elephant in the room, but I'll let Matt describe that.
Yeah, so this is an interesting situation because neither of you have Nvidia graphics cards, do you? So the only graphics card I've ever had is an Nvidia one. So I've been using DLSS 4 since I got it. And what DLSS has done up till now has been it takes whatever the graphics card puts out, like the raw image of everything is rendered and then it's presented on screen. And what the DLSS does is it is AI, but it uses it to increase the image quality without it needing to be as intensive on the graphics card. So it's basically a force multiplier. So you can have a game playing it natively at full HD, but if you've got a 4K monitor, rather than having to render it at 4K, which is literally 4 times the size, which means 4 times as many pixels, you can use DLSS to upscale it. And DLSS is incredible for doing that. What this seems to be doing is, rather than just making the raw data look better, they have gone, right, we've got the raw data look better, but now we want to use AI filters to actually change the characters. And this one it looks cheap because AI filters are the cheapest form of editing you can put on anything. And so that is the thing that everyone puts on everything. So we've now got makeup and lipstick and eyeliner, and that AI just softness that all AI images have, which is what I immediately noticed about the background. They've all got that slight softness to them because they are much together different elements. So it seems like they've gone from an actual technical impact that they're having on the raw data. They're going, this is what we think games should look like. This is what we think the next step of graphics cards is putting AI filters over things. And that is a mind-blowing thing for them a decision for them to have made, and not just to make, but to double down on the way they have.
I feel like, I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like the lips in the right hand side image are like fuller.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just the lipstick.
And redder.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So they've changed the shape of her lips to make them, I guess, appear more attractive, quote unquote. And then the shape of her jaw, I feel like, is different as well. But yeah, they've definitely. It feels like they're just. Yeah, it doesn't sit well with me.
It's confusing because it's bad for everyone in this, not just. So for Nvidia, straight away, it shows that they have a catastrophic lack of self-awareness to think that this is, to one, come up with it, and two, to go, right, this is the next evolution. This is our DLSS. This is number 5. It's the name. It's not a spin-off thing. It's the DLSS. This is our new flagship. This is going to be our foundation for the next one. So it's bad for them, like in their internal awareness of what they do. It's bad for gamers because you look at that and you immediately go, that looks awful, or it doesn't. I didn't choose for it to look like that. I didn't choose what filter I want to have put on it. And it's also awful for the artists. They make these things a very specific way. They engineer them to be a specific way, and to just stick a filter on it is just insulting. And it's bad for the AI impact on art because it wants to project itself onto art that exists rather than just mimicking art that exists. It wants to go, right, this art does exist. We're going to put our filter on. So it's just baffling.
Indeed. And I think I remember also reading that a lot of the defense of it was that it's an optional feature. That's not exactly how you sell something, by saying, oh, you don't have to put it on, you can turn it off. That's really going to help sell it, isn't it? Imagine if you went to a shop and you were like, oh, you don't have to buy it. You can can if you want, but you can choose not to. That's not exactly what you really want from a product, is it?
They don't want the older version to be better than the new one.
No, definitely not.
It really frustrates me, actually, when with these AI things, because you can get these apps that let you try on different haircuts or try different hair colours or whatever, and they cannot not mess with the face. So it's like, I want to know what a different haircut might look on me or a different colour, but then suddenly they've done this whole filter to the way that I look, so it doesn't look like me anymore, or looks like, a younger version of me. And it's like, well, yeah, younger me may well be able to rock, platinum blonde, but, 14, nearly 49-year-old me cannot, and I find it so frustrating that there's this assumption by the AI that's been put in there, the AI rules, that means that they make these changes to the faces when they because they could have done stuff to that imagery to make it look better without looking a certain way, and they haven't. Thank you for that, Alex. That was a really interesting story.
An interesting perspective.
So, I'm going to do my one next, if that's all right, Matt.
Go for it.
So I was going to talk about there is a new, I'm just getting the first thing. Game companies are being expected to standardize accessibility labels on storefronts and product pages, according to Engadget a couple of days ago, on 20th of March. So there's a new initiative that is asking game developers such as Microsoft, Nintendo, and EA to come together and make a list of accessibility features that their games have. And these have been defined as a set of 24 accessibility tags that will appear in participating game storefronts and product pages, so that players can know the features that a game has before they buy it. And it's generally a positive story. It's good that they're doing this. It's good that they're thinking about it. However, in, yet another own goal in these situations, apparently they don't cross-reference with the existing similar system that Steam has. So one of the places that the vast majority of games are sold through doesn't use this particular list. So there's no standardization, so it doesn't line up, which means that someone's going to have to move or everyone's going to be confused. So, for example, Steam has a playable without timed inputs tag, and that's being frequently misapplied by games developers. And because it's due to a mismatch between the public-facing and the developer-facing descriptions of the tags. So it's one of these things where on the surface it sounds like a great idea, and yet clearly a lot of the thought and the thinking and the research hasn't actually gone into it behind the scenes, which might make it more unhelpful than helpful.
Quite ironic that they're not thinking about it in an accessible way, because obviously if you have a consistent way of naming things, or a consistent, I suppose, a consistent name on the back end and the front end, then that's going to make it a lot easier, isn't it? But and it's also interesting as well. I'm not sure how much they would have looked into the already existing accessibility lists, which have been generated by the disabled gaming community. These were always, I guess, I don't know, fringe movement was the right term, but I feel like there's something that's been built up through the community and kind of drummed together in a lot of the ways that accessibility information is for the disabled community by disabled people themselves, and built up and through that knowledge and passed on around the community. There's never anything coming from sort of the developers themselves so much, or whatever it is you're thinking of, whether it be public transport, or, information on accessible toilets, or just generally in public infrastructure. It's very rare that information comes from the organisations themselves. So there is a lot of reliance upon the community. So it's positive to hear that they are thinking of actually making this a more visible feature of the shop fronts and product pages, etc. But again, like you say, there's a real trick that's been missed there with the not aligning with Steam. And also, I don't know how much they would have actually consulted with the community, because the information is there in one place or another. And we have talked about it previously on the pod before. But, that's parts of it positive. Yeah, I'm hopeful that it will just continue snowballing, and then eventually people at the top will be like, let's make this normal for everything we do all the time. That's the hope.
This is another area that has, we're going to be talking about it in a future episode about why some problems, the people who are asking the solution, sometimes they are celebrated and sometimes they are attacked. This is one of those situations where this is a nothing thing, because what they've said is, we're going to have make sure that games can put their accessibility features that they have as visible on their store pages. PlayStation already do that. And every time I see a game that has accessibility features, I go, oh, I'll look at that and see if it's talking about the accessibility features, they must be following the example of God of War and The Last of Us, which actually showed that is the disability, the accessibility, gameplay infrastructure. That's as good as it can be. That's the gold standard. So I think, surely if they're putting it in the storefronts, that must mean because the number of accessibility features is going up. But every single one of them always has, you've got subtitles. You can change the audio to mono, or you can change the color scheme of the user interface. And that isn't enough for anything. It's not specific enough to solve any accessibility issue more than one thing, maybe one issue that you have. So but saying we're going to make it so we're going to try and maybe get a standardized thing, like it's like a content warning now that you can. Most games have content warnings now that are more detailed than they would have been in the past. If they have a list of accessibility features, that would be a good thing. But the games aren't getting more accessible. Developers aren't making en masse games that are implementing this infrastructure. What would be good is if the game developers said, we've seen this infrastructure, we've played God of War and we've played The Last of Us, and gone, what we could do is force all of our game developers to make their games that fit into this structure. And that would be something, because it's doable. That is a completely manageable thing, because The Last of Us Part 2 and God of War Ragnarok are two of the most. So certainly God of War Ragnarok is one of the most complex games, like, of this recent generation, and The Last of Us Part 2 is a staggering, like, story told in an incredible way. So it doesn't need to make the art less artful, but the finding out, the coming up with this infrastructure and making it be implemented, that is that's the hard work. That's the institutional change that needs to happen in order to get the end result of making all games as accessible as possible. Or they could just say, oh, we're going to have a list. We're going to get people to list their accessibility options and do nothing else apart from that. Because anything that isn't based entirely on them being able to make as much money as possible, which means them having control over the projects that they do, they want it to be there are a small number of people at the top that control everything that goes on underneath, rather than going, oh yeah, you've got, it doesn't matter how, like, what a savant you think you are, what an auteur you think you are, you need to fit your stuff into this infrastructure. So that is incredibly frustrating to see areas where we need systemic, institutional, consistent change, things that are codified, and that's when we can start fixing things. If they're not that kind of change, then the change that is going to come as a result of that is going to be inconsistent and unreliable. So, and just hearing the word accessibility more hasn't made games more accessible. Whatever has been tried to be done hasn't worked yet. We've got God of War and we've got The Last of Us Part 2. That's all we've got to lead the way. But what those developers should be doing as part of their responsibility, they've got the massive studios, massive success, massive resources. They should have entire wings where they go, right, we're putting our resources into forcing other game companies to make their games more accessible. We're going to create our own ecosystem of accessibility consultants that will go in and lobby for these things and make them happen. And that isn't happening. So this is just another frustrating accessibility story for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think one would hope that this will encourage games to think more about accessibility and to include it, because they obviously recognise that it is a marketing win to include this information. That's the only reason they're going to do it, is because they think they're going to sell more games. So I think that they obviously think that that's a positive thing. And when you see games next to each other on the shelf or on the website or whatever, and you're looking at those and you're comparing them, and suddenly you're seeing these different tags or whatever on the games, that might just make people think, like, why is this one got more than that one, and what does that mean? And that might influence people's purchasing, and then hopefully that will encourage the industry to make games more accessible overall. However, I feel like that is going to happen so slowly that it's hardly going to be helpful. And actually, the ESA, the organisation that are in charge of this, the Entertainment Software Association, told The Verge that the timeline for implementation of the tags is company dependent. So we don't even have an actual timeline for this. So it doesn't fill me with confidence. I think it's positive that they've even thought about it, but it's it feels a little bit performative and perhaps just an empty effort. So we will wait and see.
It's the the infrastructure part is the critical bit, because not everyone needs every feature. Some people will need one, some people will need lots of them. And it's just like with physical infrastructure. So it's like they're a building that hasn't got any accessibility stuff in it. So, well, we've got a lift. And so when people do come in, if they're on crutches, they could use the lift so they don't have to walk up the stairs. That's the sort of thing that you put on, game companies put on their thing. But what this is missing is if there isn't a ramp, then people won't be able to get in. There are a large number of people who just won't be able to get in the door. And then, but even say, we saw lots of other buildings that have ramps, which means that, and I've seen people in wheelchairs going in and out, so we'll get a ramp. And they go, we've got a ramp. Is there other lifts big enough to fit a wheelchair in? Are there disabled toilets? And the point being that the idea of an ecosystem of accessibility is the mindset that they need to start with. So rather than it being bit by bit here and there where it fits in, to make it
mustn't be an afterthought. The key thing, like you say, Matt, so often accessibility is an afterthought that's just added on to existing things, and that just proves that it's not fit for purpose, because if it was fit for purpose, it would have been built in at the design stage anyway. And that's so often what happens. But yeah, I agree.
Okay, so Matt, come on, bring us something to cheer us up.
Well, the cheering up part will have to be from you laughing at me for playing Fortnite.
I have been sending. I think we need to share that. I've been sending Instagram posts about Fortnite to you, Matt, on our group chat, because every time I come across a Fortnite one, I'm like, watch it for Mr. Guy. He'll find it so funny. I don't know whether you do, but I do. You know, because I have to send Instagram posts to everyone all the time.
It's more that I go, every meme I see is go, that's accurate. So, but the Fortnite is doing, it's a fairly big success. It's quite a big deal. But unfortunately, in a recent post, they said that, unfortunately, who said this? Epic Games shared the news via Fortnite blog post. The cost of running Fortnite has gone up a lot, and we're raising prices to help pay the bills. And
That's a worry.
But it's a free game, so how do you raise the prices on things?
I wonder what they could do.
Well, the answer is digital inflation. Because it turns out that digital currency can suffer from deflation as well. Inflation, excuse me. Because V-Bucks are now they are worthless, but now they are worth less than they have been in the, I think, nearly 10 years since Fortnite came out. What was 1,000 V-Bucks is now 800. And what is 2,800 is now 2,400. So it's interesting that they said they're raising prices. They're not raising prices. They're making the digital currency buy you less. So the things in the store cost the same, but you're going to need to spend more to get them.
Spend more real money to buy Fortnite money, is that?
Yep. Yep. And this is it's wild, because can you guess how much money Fortnite made last year?
Probably several million.
How much?
Probably several million, I don't know.
Several million.
Good guess.
So I think we're probably into billions.
Yeah.
Okay. $6 billion.
Well done.
6 billion.
Good.
And And Epic has removed the ability to earn. Yeah, so the battle pass is normally 1,000 V-Bucks, but it now costs 800 V-Bucks. Hooray! But you used to be able to earn 500 V-Bucks in the battle pass, but they have removed that. And that is just, I'm stunned. I'm absolutely stunned. And Megan plays a ton more Fortnite than me. I only play when I'm playing with her. And so and she watches a ton of Fortnite streamers. So whenever I ask her something, have you heard about these V-Bucks going up? And she goes, oh my God, yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing. Jim, is this something that you've come across with your daughter and Roblox?
What, the price increasing?
Of digital, just using, does she use digital currencies?
She doesn't. Well, we have gifted her some over the years, but she generally just gives it away to people. And she doesn't, she's not a very materialistic person, actually, which I'm very proud of, but it's got nothing to do with me. So yeah, there's not a lot of things that she's bought in game for herself, but she's definitely been gifted it, and she has spent some of her own money on it to buy things. But it's, as I said, most of what she's done with it has given it away, or she just bought little avatars and things like that. So, but there was a case. She reminded me about this just the other day, where there was an item that had been in the game and then had been taken out. So they do that quite a lot. They remove items from the store, and even if you bought them, you get the money back, but you lose the item. So you can buy like an avatar part. There's this one that they all love called Headless, which is basically where you have no head. You have hair and a body, but your avatar doesn't have a head, which they all love. And she had that, and then it got taken away. It got just taken offline, and they refund them the money. And
quite worrying.
Well, I think it basically increases inflation, because then they bring it back later and everyone wants to buy it.
Yeah.
And they had this thing. It wasn't Headless. It was an item, I think something you could carry around with you, or something that followed you around. And they brought that on, and it crashed all the service because everyone was trying to buy it. Everyone wanted it. So yeah, but we haven't had to get too involved in the whole online monies, and I know that there are problems with it, and I know other parents who've had lots of issues with their kids, and the whole gambling associated with loot boxes and things. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's a big problem, and I think from the parents' perspective, it's, in some ways you can perhaps justify it in that it's a way of teaching children about money. I mean, these days we don't go in, don't give real money in shops very often, and kids often aren't in shops because we do so much of our shopping online and things like that. So this is a way to understand this idea of transactions and money and saving up and buying something. But that isn't how it works at all. So it doesn't even teach them those kind of lessons. So it's not, there just isn't really any positive spin on it, other than that it's a way for companies to make money without charging a subscription or an upfront fee.
Not your thoughts, Alex?
Yeah. I mean, I was just thinking, when you mentioned about things that had been purchased just disappearing out of nowhere and kind of coming back more expensive later, it's not the same, but similar things I had heard had been happening in places like Audible, where they have, like, if you bought a book and it's in your library, like, I think there were some terms and conditions that came out a couple of years back or last year that were saying they have the right to basically remove any content from audible that they feel like. And if you've purchased it, then it's hard luck. You can't get it anymore, even though you quote unquote own it. It's the same sort of concept here as in the PlayStation Store. Whenever you hear them saying content on the PlayStation Store is subject to change, and may not be, it may not be available all the time. I just find it it's another sort of thing around digital products and ownership and who owns it. If you've purchased it, do you really own that product? And it's just made me think about that a little bit more, which I know is not quite the point you were making, Jem, but it just reminded me of all of that and the worrying trend of digital products generally.
It's another degree going up in the boiling pot of the digital age, because every single gaming like Steam and PlayStation Store, they have in their terms and conditions, just, you don't own your games. You are purchasing the ability to play this game. They haven't enforced it like en masse, which is what they could do. But we are at their mercy with it, really. And I'll end it with just an idea of the filthy money that they're making. The store where they sell their skins, it's a rolling store, so you basically only get one. It'll be there for a week or two, and you can buy it, but then once it's gone, it's gone. And they have had literally every single franchise that has ever existed, and the biggest ones as well. You play a game of Fortnite, you'll see skins from Star Wars, and they just started with Game of Thrones and got Walking Dead, Attack on Titan, literally everything. So they are getting these partnerships with everyone, and the biggest sign is that a new event has happened, and this cool like warrior guy who's had his helmet on the entire time finally takes off in the trailer, and it's The Rock. There you go. God, the millions, untold millions. And it says one line, so they've got his face and him saying one line. And
what does he say?
I can't remember. No more. I think it's no more Mr. Ice Guy. That is straight out of Batman with Mr. Freeze.
See, I remember him when he was doing WWF wrestling, and he used to stand on the side of the thing and go, "Can you smell what The Rock? It's good." And then the crowd would go, "What?" And, yeah.
That's one of Tom's favourite phrases to say around the house for some reason, and especially when he's in the kitchen. He's a big wrestling fan.
Well, yeah, I think that's a slightly more positive note to finish on. But we'll have to watch that space and see, really, and see what happens with all of these stories. So maybe we'll come back to some of them in future episodes. And that was a bit of a whistle-stop roundup of what we've got going on at the moment. And I'm sure we've missed lots of things. I know that Matt and I at least brought other stories along with us. Ali's probably got one up her sleeve. So yes, we'll come back to that. But thank you ever so much for listening, and we are here every Thursday. So check us out and leave us a comment, like and share us with your friends, and we'll see you very soon. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed that episode of Gaming the System. If you want to support us, you can donate to us through our PayPal by sending it to wearegamingthesystem@gmail.com if you want to send us a one-off donation. If you want to donate to us monthly, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/gamingthesystem. Until next time, bye-bye.